Palworld is largely the most controversial and divisive game release that I've seen in a long time. And by this point, we have seen it all. It's uninspired, it's plagiarism, it's AI generated, it's theft. It's only popular because content creators and YouTubers are making videos about it. Let's actually hope that one's true. Last September, I made a video that was titled Baldur's Gate 3 was a wake-up call. And in that video, I took to town a bunch of video game journalists as well as AAA developers that were saying that Baldur's Gate 3 was setting an unrealistic standard for RPGs moving forward. And I talked about the state of the AAA industry, how many of our games have lost quality over the years, how every game feels like it's stuffed with microtransactions, obfuscated currency, and bolted-on live service models, and we're just exhausted of it, and we want something different. Palworld is teaching a completely different type of lesson. And today I want to talk about some of the articles that I've read, some of the comments that I've seen, and see if we can teach them a thing or two. With its current peak of over 2 million players on Steam and over 8 million copies sold already, Palworld is likely to be the biggest and fastest selling release of 2024. A game that seemingly came out of nowhere and was written off by most people well before its release is now contending like a heavyweight in a growingly saturated market of survival games that's made by a handful of developers that learned on the job, a $10,000 budget, and a gas station worker. Palworld is not innovative, it's not groundbreaking, and the company's head has no interest in any of those things. As seen in a Japanese television interview, the CEO said, "I don't have any creative vision. I just want to make a game that people like." And Palworld is just that. It's fun. It's a game that people like. And I've seen a lot of people try to intellectualize what is fun, what is enjoyable, and try to intellectualize Palworld and why it shouldn't compare to many of the other games that have been released over the last few years, especially the Pokemon games. Now, with that said, games don't have to be high fidelity. They don't have to have complicated systems. They don't need massive budgets to succeed. However, many of these developers over the last few years have been caught in the weeds. They're focusing on these minor aspects of the game rather than figuring out how all of those elements can combine into one, connect properly, and make an enjoyable experience. And that's something that Baldur's Gate 3 did. It took all of those elements that they think is impossible to put together to make a product that people enjoy, and they made a great game, an enjoyable game that people had a lot of fun with and are still having a lot of fun with. But Palworld's doing something a little bit different. And for completely different reasons, it's making a lot of developers scratch their heads asking, why them and not me? A senior artist for Naughty Dog, maker of the Uncharted and Last of Us Remastered series, said in a now-deleted tweet, "My gut is telling me Palworld was made nefariously. I just have no proof. Just dev intuition." Another artist responded saying, "It does feel like that, doesn't it?" To which they responded, "Making a game is just so difficult. They're cheating somehow. I just can't pinpoint it." And again, here we are coming back to this conversation of games are so difficult to make. I would imagine it would feel like this studio is cheating when they're outshining your company, whose repetitive game design is only out-repeated by how many times you guys re-release the same game while trying to chase Bethesda's record with Skyrim. And now, while this is an isolated tweet and an isolated conversation, I find this developer's attitude to be much in line with the lack of accountability that we saw during the pushback of Baldur's Gate 3, where developers from both Blizzard and Naughty Dog came forth saying that Larian was setting an impossible standard for them to reach. What makes games so difficult to make are the unrealistic standards that AAA studios are setting by making games that they want us to have instead of games that we want to play. You want an unrealistic standard? You have to sell 40 million copies of a game that has a story that's so sanitized that it wouldn't even offend even the most delicate of flowers. You have to put all of your effort into all areas other than gameplay. You need to gaslight your player base so that they empathize with the hard work that you put in and the poor decisions that you made. You need to waste $150 million on a marketing budget. You know what? For good measure, let's staple on a live service model and see if it floats. Many of the difficulties that AAA studios face are self-imposed restrictions, self-inflicted wounds. An open-world survival craft RPG monster tamer with guns. Of course the game is going to sell. Of course it's going to do well. But why has nobody made it until now? Because they're terrified. Either that or they're too busy worrying about what they want to make for us instead of thinking to themselves and putting their egos aside and saying, what do the players actually want to play? And by the way, this isn't some social politics thing. Baldur's Gate 3 showed that you can make a game as inclusive as you want and it can still be fun, and it can still have teeth. Most of the criticisms that I've seen float around are the accusations that the game is using AI art or there's plagiarism for the Pokemon franchise. And let's not kid ourselves. They definitely took some creative liberty with their designs for their pals. However, this largely feels like a cope because people are seeing that creativity and originality don't really mean much to the end user. While many of us can appreciate art in games, we appreciate fun and enjoyable gameplay more than anything. There's nothing nefarious about Palworld, except maybe that black market trader. That guy gives me nightmares. It's pretty clear that Pocket Pair tried to do too much with their last game, Craftopia. They scaled back, they focused on specific elements, they tossed in some monster taming, and they made a better game as a result. In arguably the saltiest article that I've read from Eurogamer, Chris Tapsell writes, "If you're yet to hop on board and wondering what you're missing, you can relax. Palworld is big and controversial. It is also absolute rubbish. It's primitive and derivative, a game that appears at first glance to be completely fake. The type of thing quickly mocked up for a 3-second appearance on a teen's PC monitor in the background of a mid-budget TV drama. A game to be played one-handed with an N64 controller by Tony Soprano, although honestly, I think he deserved better. It's difficult to know where to begin with games like this. How do you break this down into its constituent problems when they're eclipsed by its very nature as a cynical, precision reverse-engineered machine designated to bottle your attention and refine it into concentrated cash? And it is cynical. Here's the developer Takuro Mizobe talking to Wired Japan in 2022 and responding with some admirable candor to a question about Nintendo, culture of prioritizing creative, original, high-quality work, and why he didn't get on with that. Quoting Takuro, "I have a deep-rooted desire for my work to be enjoyed by as many people as possible, and to that end, if there are good ideas in the world, I pick them up. And I don't think I need to be particular about originality. I want to make it less serious, or rather, more easygoing. I think it's good to create something in that way, like jumping on what's trendy. Lol." Now, what's most notable is the conclusion that Chris comes to in the end. Play Palworld and you won't feel like you're playing something that was made with thought, or craft, or any earnest team's best intentions. You won't feel admiration or wonder. You won't feel any real sense of achievement. You won't feel like any artist has been involved, or that anything meaningful might come to your mind. You will instead feel like you're playing a product designed to be sold, rather than to be played. You will feel like a mark, and you'll be right. Do you know what? He's absolutely right. Chris, you got me. I feel like a mark. I feel like this game was specifically made and targeted for me. I loved Pokemon as a kid. I torched every single TV remote I could find for more batteries. Sorry, Grandpa. The idea that making a game with the audience in mind first is a bad thing just blows my mind. And especially when he goes in to start talking about monetization at the beginning, where he says it's just something that's made specifically to make a profit, etc., when that looks like every single AAA game that we've got over the years anyway. Worse so. Where are the microtransactions in Palworld? Where's the live service model? There is none. Nor is there any plan to be one. The lack of awareness on this, especially saying things like, oh, you will feel. Apparently, no, I won't be. And also 8 million other people don't either. So you're proved wrong by that, my friend. Why would I care about the quibbling between studios of who made what first? What designs were made first? All I care about is an enjoyable product at the end of the day. That's for them to fight over and figure out and sue each other or whatever. All we want are fun, enjoyable games. That's it. Most of these games are derivative already. Many games are derivative. I don't think anything really is all that new or unique in gaming. It's the approach that ends up being the most unique thing. And their approach with Palworld was great and made a game that a lot of people enjoy. I love that he's making the CEO of Pocket Pair sound like he's Jordan Belfort. You know what Jordan Belfort was really good at? Understanding the needs of the customer and using that to be able to make money. Well, I mean, he was slimy. He knew that he needed to understand the customer first, their needs, their desires, and then utilize that to be able to make or deliver a product to them that they wanted. Find out what they want and give them what they want. You make money in return. Crazy idea. I've seen a lot of developers in my comment sections over the last couple months that anytime I make comments where I'm like, oh, these devs, these studios, they'll pop in and they'll say, well, I'm a dev. I feel this way. I like Palworld. I like this. And I'm like, it's cool. But realize that when I use these kind of statements where I'm talking about studios or developers, you know who I'm talking about. And if you're watching this video, you know it's you. I really do hope that the industry does learn something from this. And it doesn't necessarily mean that your games don't have to be the most creative. It's not necessarily always about the art. Well, there is definitely space for that, and that definitely does need to be in the industry. Sometimes the most original ideas aren't the ideas that end up being the most successful or the ones that players want in the first place. And that's something to learn from. Palworld is such an incredible example of just giving players something that they wanted to. And there's so many other video game ideas that you could just say aloud and know, oh yeah, that's definitely something players are going to want. I'll give you a really good example. Call of Duty, want to know how to fix Warzone? Bring back Verdansk. Your audience has been asking for it the minute you got rid of it. Like, it blows my mind. Like, it's literally the easiest solution to success. They loved that map. They didn't really care about getting another map. They didn't want another map even when you said you were going to give them one. And they haven't been happy since. Give them what they want. It's not that complicated. The lack of awareness and ownership and the overblown egos of so many people, both in games journalism and also in game design as well, is just insane. Some of the things that we've seen developers say over the last few years, or even just over the last few months, looking like Starfield or Diablo 4. I want to talk about Diablo 4 and Season 3, but man, that horse is dead. It's just dead. Anyway, that's all I got for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did, think about supporting the channel. I'm going to leave my Patreon link down below. Outside of that, stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe, my friends, and I will catch you in Palworld. Catch me live. Peace.